Today's episode is brought to you by cattle. Every product launch faces a chicken and egg problem. You need reviews to convert, but you need conversions to get reviews. Cattle can help.
Cattle helps brands win share. They leverage their consumer panel for insights, collecting receipts, and driving product ratings and reviews. It is the largest daily active survey panel in Canada, with over 10,000 daily active users and over 100,000 monthly active users. Let cattle be your chicken and or your egg, depending on your perspective. Visit getcattle.com to learn more. Welcome to Hearts and Carts, the CPG podcast, the podcast about the people behind the products that are winning hearts and filling carts. This cast is for anyone with an interest in the world of consumer products. We're your hosts, Justin Osborne and Alex Hill, and our mission is to bring you weekly content that helps you be a better and more informed CPG professional. Hey guys, we've done a good number of episodes now, and we're kind of circling the wagon, so to speak, and coming back to our first ever guest on Hearts and Carts, and wanted to see how our old friend Mark Lee is doing and catch up with him. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're not going to do our usual format and talk his whole career. We're just going to catch up, have a casual conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. Mr. Lee.
Gentlemen.
Still handsome. Good. Still handsome. Yeah, 1 year later. Like a fine wine.
That's it. Silver fox.
Yeah, I've also become very silver foxy. Well, silver. How are you, man?
Not bad. How's it going?
I'm good. Life's good. Alex and I were just chatting. I was saying I haven't talked to you in a while. We've been texting and stuff, but haven't talked to you in a while, man.
Yeah. It's been a crazy ride, to be honest.
Yeah, the last time you were on here, like a year ago, your brand crush was Disney, and I've been to Disneyland since then and got gouged incredibly bad, like you said.
And take my money, guys. Just take it. I will love it.
We're already planning on going next year. So it's like a completely it's such a scam, but yeah, it was like memory wise, somebody said to me, it's like core memory unlocked for Leo, and I was like, it's very true. Like he was in heaven, because it's like especially he thinks like it's real, so it was like a whole crazy world there. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I think it's real, so if
I guess it is.
Yeah, I was blown away. I went to the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge.
You also went to Disney, that's right.
After we talked last year, and I was like, all my life I was like, how is this different than going to like Canada's Wonderland or whatever?
Don't even say that. That's blasphemy.
I know. But like even the lines are cool. Like the
100%.
whole way is like from like start to finish is an experience. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it without the fast pass, but
elitist. You elitist. Unbelievable.
US at its best. I love it.
Yeah, I definitely bought the Genie Pass too. I had a 3.5-year-old. There's no way I'm waiting in an hour line for a single ride. No, that would be chaos.
Yeah, I love the like half an hour before the park closes, the mad dash to hit all of the best rides like within an hour, and that's all we did. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's weird. And Leo was like falling asleep, and it's like, F that, buddy. We're hitting
one.
We're hitting one
time. More. This is
too bad. I want to watch the fireworks. No, man, the rides are empty. Let's go.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just whatever I wanted.
So, Mr. Lee, what's going on with you, man? I saw you were traveling. Looked like you did the desert at some point in there.
We went.
You've done some cool stuff.
Yeah. I mean, travel out to Utah. Did the kind of national park tour out there. So Zion, Arches, and the last one, Zion and Bryce Canyon. It's all Beautiful. Good. It was all good. Kind of interesting travel. Very strenuous. So we went there just to hike the Narrows. I mean, that's the reason why I went there. And so that was like a 6.5. I round up 7. It was like a 7-hour hike that nearly killed me. That was like on day 2, and But it's good. It's interesting. It's not like a relaxing trip, but it's like a testing your resolve kind of trip, which I appreciate. It's kind of this mentality that I have right now of trying to build mental strength about like physical challenges. So, interesting. It was good. But it was more like challenging than anything else.
You should come run around the bay with me again.
I
Signed up.
started running. My knees literally exploded as I was like on week whatever 3.
Running
I feel
sucks,
like
man.
Think about how much that would challenge your physical resilience.
It's true. I was thinking like
That's
biking,
true.
but biking really sucks too. So I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, I hate running. I read Shoe Dog, and in that, Phil Knight talks about running as like meditation for him. Like he gets in like a flow state and loves it and can go for these
Yeah.
runs. So after I read that, I was super inspired and I was like, I'm gonna try so hard to get into that state. Like I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. The entire time I'm like, my knee hurts, my ankle hurts. This sucks. It's like I could not get into it at all.
Here's a pro tip: pop a low dose THC gummy, and then go for as long of a run as you want, and you'll be good. You'll be good.
I have to find my phone on those so Steph can grab me in case I get lost.
You may end up somewhere else.
Yeah, ends up in the wrong town.
Shows up in Manitoba or something. Where am I?
That's what happened to Forrest Gump.
Microdosing. That's right. There was an untold subplot to Forrest Gump. He was microdosing at the time.
Oh man. And what's going on with the job? You I think last time you were on, you were in a different role, right? So you've moved.
Yeah. I mean, it's been a bit of a ride. I mean, last time we chatted, obviously cannabis is what it is, right? Changing regulatory environment, competitors, all of the things. And I would say it's like if I had to look back and talk to myself a year ago, I would tell myself to just hold on, because you're gonna hit a bit of a patch here, and it's kind of like when you're on a roller coaster. We're talking about Disney. You're on a roller coaster and you're out of the gate and you're banging around. You're like, oh, this is pretty fun, and then you hit the big jump or the big like drop. That's kind of I felt how it was over the last year, and it's been crazy. And because I mean the undercurrent is cannabis companies now overall, not just Canopy, are shifting from this kind of spending for the future, future demand now to shifting and building sustainable businesses. And I think, we're all figuring that out. And so, I mean, Canopy, because we came so strong out of the gate in legalization, building up infrastructure and all that kind of stuff, the transition, it takes longer. It took longer. And so over the last year, we've been dead focused on building a profitable company, which, to us in the CPG world makes a lot of sense. But in order to get there, there's been many rounds. I think 3 or 4 rounds of layoffs, right? And so, as a manager, and dealing with my own demons as I go through these things, it's a lot. It takes a lot out of you. And I think if we look at the last year, I was kind of head of business transformation for 3 months, and then I moved over to more of a global role, so off the Canadian business into head of global marketing, and then I raised my hand and volunteered to add on the US CBD business onto my scope. But 3 or 4 kind of job changes over the last year. And most people outside looking in like, oh my God, that's terrible. And that would be tough. And it was tough. But I would say now more than ever, I'm dead focused on what we're doing here. And I believe in the end goal, which I think is important. And kind of learning of managing myself and my teams through these transitions has been amazing. And so, who knows what's going to happen to me in the years to come, but I'm still dead focused on the end goal and kind of trucking towards that.
That's a lot of changes. That's I mean, it's an interesting story, cannabis, right? Like I mean, aside from the regulatory landscape, the challenges with the black market persisting and everything in between, it's been a wild ride. And then you layer on the inflationary high interest environments, like building for the future, and like, as you say, doesn't really, even tech companies are looking for profit more than they used to, right? So it makes perfect sense. I think it's the logical play, but again, to your point, like a lot to unwind there. And I mean, sounds like some really big growth in terms of just like experiences though, right? Like I feel like, you don't grow from easy jobs. So, in those roles, like, what do you think some of the big takeaways you maybe have over the last year have been?
I think managing my teams through this transition, or helping them manage, has been the greatest learnings or experiences that I've had so far. And admittedly, when something like that happens, and we lost hundreds of folks that I work with daily,
Oh, yeah.
and everyone has survivor's guilt. It is a real thing,
Yeah.
and it's tough because you feel, why me versus them, and felt bad and hard to reach out to folks, and then even after, it's a tough thing that you have to self manage, and that and kind of demons that you need to overcome personally. But it's all about giving yourself the leeway to feel the feelings, and go through your own process, and it takes some folks longer than others. But then banding together, I was like, team, just take the time you need, but come Monday, we're gonna slowly work on it, and obviously it's a process, but we're gonna do this together. And I think at the end of the day, and I mentioned it earlier, it's just like believing in the end goal. At the end goal, I do think these are the right moves for Canopy as a company in order to become profitable, being asset light, all the things, which is helping really link us up to where the market is now, and just kind of moving forward. And so it's been a great experience in understanding where everyone's coming from, having quick touch bases. I mean, I think I'm closer to my team more than ever, just because we have these touch bases and have the frank and honest conversations, and they have the openness to tell me when they're freaking out, and it happens all the time, and that's okay. And admittedly, there's nothing I can say that I can't guarantee that things aren't going to change tomorrow. But at the end of the day, ground ourselves in what the reality is now, and try to build roles that are challenging them, developing them, and engaging them in all the things that they need to do in order to keep on going.
Yeah.
I think listeners, that you go through that, it's just like one of these times where you really see how important emotional intelligence is. Like, you talk about reaching out to the people who are gone. Sometimes it's hard to find the words. It's the right thing to do, but it's really, there's a lot of internal friction there for yourself, and finding the balance between pushing things forward with people, and at the same time there's a lot to process for everyone, right? And everyone's different, so like being able to, and you guys work remotely, so feeling out body language isn't necessarily I'm curious how that is like that's a lot of management challenges faced through the screen too, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can only do what you can do, but having those quick one-offs, and I agree with you in terms of the EQ piece. It's reacting to a look or a slight phrase that just sounds a little off, right? And then taking them aside and double clicking into it, I think is helpful. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had those conversations. I mean, you all work with me at SCJ. I mean, SCJ is one of those companies that were renowned for not letting people go, right? Even during the hard times, they would just everyone take a pay cut and let it go. And so a good part of my career, I didn't have to deal with any of this because we didn't do that. And so now I've probably gone through 6 or 7 transitions over the last 3 years of waves of folks. And at times my whole team got let go. It's just an interesting thing, especially when you're managing that team.
Yeah. Totally. I had to do a similar thing when Vega was acquired by Wellmore, and it was all virtual video calls, letting people go. One of the worst experiences of my professional career. People that had been there for many years that were great at their jobs, not their fault at all, which is if they were bad at their job, that's a completely different conversation. They were great at their job. It's just we're looking at the roles and the structure and how we could change it. And so it felt really, really shitty. Like, this is important to them, and they've been part of the company for a long time. And I just remember how tough that was. But at the end of the day, it's like you said, if you believe in what the company's doing and that it's a necessary thing, and it's like, how do you bond and move forward together? I found for me too, very similar. Like, I became closer with my team after that, the team that was kind of remaining, right? Because we all felt bad and sad about it, right? But it's like we wanted to move forward, and I think the reality was like our targets didn't change, and like none of the business stuff really changed. So we did have to like bond and work together in order to close those gaps, because those people were doing things. It's not like they were just sitting there. So it's like, how do we now make that up?
Absolutely. It's an interesting one, and I think at the end of the day, I think what you said about good people are leaving or had to let go, I think is key, because especially early in my career, you would hear people get fired, like, oh my God, they got fired.
What did he do?
They must have been terrible.
That guy was fucking up.
Exactly. And so now,
you're right.
I don't know. I mean, it may be outside of Alex Hill. I don't know someone who hasn't gotten fired or like has been really close to it. It's just an unfortunate part of the business, and I think it's an interesting one. And my wife kind of talks to me a lot about this. And, that means everyone's dispensable, and you shouldn't. You should make sure that you're keeping things professional and all that. And I don't know. I take it a little differently. I mean, I can understand the business decisions. I don't take it personally anymore, but I still want to drive and have that goal and still drive like it's my own, even though I know this could be my last day or tomorrow could be my last day. It's just, it doesn't affect my resolve anymore. I'm still kind of in it to win it. I believe I have wins to do here, and I can do great work and add value, and I'm still going to do it. But I can understand the folks that get affected by that. And so I understand both sides.
Yeah. Thankfully for me, I have not been through it, but I can only imagine.
Yeah. And I think the nature of the roles now, we can talk a little bit about my new roles. The thing is now, because we're so asset light, everyone's being asked to do things that are outside of their company. And so, being stretched in, I used to be a marketer. I'm now asked to do, sales forecasts. Those just random things like that. But and it's stretching folks beyond where they are before they, where they're comfortable. And I think it's a challenge. And it's but I do think it's a reality of today's marketplace. And we talked a lot on the last time we chatted about, my preference for being a general manager over or specific functional expertise. And I do think that's the way the market is going. And, there are fewer probably CMO opportunities versus GM kind of opportunities. And I do think that this well-rounded skill set, particularly of companies of a specific size, that's where you need to be. And as I look to continue to grow, obviously part of my point of difference, but that's really where I see folks being stretched. And then the question is, are you willing to continue to learn and push yourself and do new things? I think that's
I'm one of the takeaways I'm taking from that is that your time with Justin and I on the sales team was incredibly valuable to you, and continues to benefit you in your life.
Again, I'd like to reiterate, also traumatic. There was trauma there. That's fine.
Shared trauma can sometimes bond people together. Here we are. Look at us. Who would have thought?
As we all laugh nervously.
Gary Salmon, if you're listening, we're just joking. I did send him the podcast link about 5 days ago, so he might be listening. He's
on the beach. He's not listening.
We gotta listen to something on the beach.
Speaking of, go ahead, Mark.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, speaking of the podcast, thank you for being our first guest ever, and also for being our first 2-time guest ever.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, you're Hearts and Carts OG.
Yeah.
Is it like Saturday Night Live where I get some kind of jacket with like a 2 on it, or what's the?
We can't afford that.
That cattle money's not for these guys.
Note.
Would you accept a free survey from cattle? We do have Alex, give him one of your t-shirts. Lean back so you can see it. There you go. Give him one of your
take it out of the wash.
Give him one of your t-shirts. Wash it first, but yeah. I think we could do that. Yeah, Alex and I were chatting about that, and we're like, it's pretty wild. We just texted you and said, hey, we're gonna do a podcast and you're gonna be a first guest. Is that cool? And you're like, yeah. I can't believe you said yes to that. but I really appreciate you doing it.
I can't believe you asked me. Like, these idiots have no idea how to start strong.
Yeah, we got good reviews on the first one, man. It took off. I think it's
Hey,
all
still
you.
one of the top. Still one of the top.
Still one of the top.
episodes.
This is the key. This is the key. Am I still top? I think I'm.
You're not number one.
I know.
Close.
I'm probably out of top 5 or top 10, but like top 3rd. Am I going to get delisted from this podcast? Yes or no? Is my velocity high enough?
You're top 3rd. I think you're good.
Oh, you're good, man.
You're good.
You're good. You're definitely good.
Yeah. If we do remove you, it's more of a personal thing. It has nothing to do with the performance of the episode.
Mark Lee sitting there in 3rd place.
He's 3rd place.
Guys.
Start podcast guess. It's not a race, but
listen, it is a race. It's all biz competition, particularly because I work with a lot of folks on your podcast. So I am better than everyone else.
just to be clear, I am
better. Just to be clear, I am better.
Oh man, that's great. Speaking of future guests, we got to have your wife on the show at some point. She's much more intelligent than you.
She is definitely much more intelligent than I am. That's funny. As long as you don't mind mixed French phrases in there every so often, we're good.
I just want to make sure that we can get her episode to be number 3 all time, so you could bump to number 4. That would make it worth it.
We'll take some of the t-shirt money and we'll funnel it into paid.
Can we do some paid? Because I'm tired of just clicking on my own link and just driving up those numbers. It's getting a little
old. We'll consider it. Who knows, man.
So how about y'all? How's the learnings? I mean, podcast wise. I mean, it's been a year. You guys have done a huge body of work. I was going to listen to a couple of days as well. How's it been going?
What do you mean you were going to?
Oh, I did. I already did. I did. Thank you very much.
It's
hardball, eh?
Yeah, that's fine. All right. He's waiting for the t-shirt. I told you, Alex, get him that t-shirt, damn it.
The year's been good. The year's been good. I think we rounded the 50 mark, so we've averaged more than one a week.
That's crazy,
over
guys.
the course of the year.
That is a huge accomplishment, to be honest.
And we've learned a ton, man. We've met a lot of great people. Had some fun. Like our goal was essentially to create something that's got some value for our listeners, people with an interest in consumer products, especially younger people who maybe have no, friends or family or anyone, they know who's in those senior roles or starting out their own business. And I think for us, like we've been able to kind of tick that box with the help of great guests, and same time, like it's been a good learning. I mean, lots of like nuts and bolts doing a podcast. Like there's lots of things like we want to do that we're not doing yet, like things like we'd love to have more video and things like that, but two dads of young kids, you can only do so much, and we want to make sure that the content we do make is good audio and all that stuff, so we focus there. But yeah, it's been a great learning, man. Very different than the normal day job.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And what's resonated the most? Like what's number 1 and 2? Really, I'm just trying to understand who's number and why they're number.
I think Vanessa's still number 1, right? But I think the thing that's like blown me away the most is sort of what we said about you jumping right on, is like people's willingness to jump on the podcast, especially when you're starting out. Like,
yeah,
I thought that no one would say yes, and people did, and were willing to share their time and share their advice and like be very open to the conversation. So I've just really appreciated that. I think we got to walk a trade show together, CHFA, Alex and I. Well, one, we got asked to do a live podcast there, which was kind of crazy, and like couldn't believe that people actually came and listened to us talk at a table, which was bizarre. It's very different doing this in front of an audience because that's very weird. But that was wild that we got asked for that. And we walked around that show. A couple of people actually grabbed us and said they listened to the podcast that we had never met, which was a very very cool experience.
That was cool. That's cool.
Very cool.
So it was nice that it was like resonating with some people and people were enjoying it. So we've gotten some good feedback there, which is always nice. And like we've selfishly just gotten to meet a lot of cool people through it that we probably wouldn't have met, and almost had like these coffee chats with people that we look up to, but in a way that's recorded and we can go back to.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like basically an audio mentoring diary in some ways. Like we just meet with people who are smarter than us and ask them questions.
Love it.
Yeah, we're learning a lot from it. So it's very, very interesting. We don't want to take too much of your time, Mark, but as you know, because you've listened to all the episodes, of course, we do always ask our guests what their brand crush is. And in the past years was Disney, which we agreed was an amazing one. But I wanted to know in the past year if something else has jumped up as your brand crush.
He's hoping you're going to say Bloom.
It's Kettle. It's Kettle. I was thinking about that, and I have this appreciation for brands that are very in tune with their consumers and kind of do what's right by their consumers. And so I've had a recent. So I do, like we mentioned before, I do a little bit of hiking. So went to Utah, all that. I have this appreciation for kind of outdoor, kind of more technical clothing. And so there's a lot of brands out there, right? There's let's call it Patagonia, Arc'teryx, all those kind of folks. But I've had this Marmot kind of zippy forever, for like 10 years. And it started to delaminate maybe 5 years ago. And I still wore it and all that. It was pretty expensive because I was 10 years ago, I didn't make a lot of money. So, I mean, it was pretty expensive. And so out of a whim, I decided to call their, in prep for Utah, I decided to call their customer line to see, what you can do when they're out there, because it felt like a flaw. And they immediately replaced it. I chose something that was more expensive. They ended up saying, "Nah, don't worry about it." Ooh. It turned out not to be in stock in Canada. They're like, "Nah, don't worry about it. I'll ship to you from US, all free." And so got a full replacement. And it's one of those little things where I'm probably going to be a Marmot buyer for the rest of my life now. And instead of nickel and diming me, which all the things that we were talking about before, profit hungry, this company is like, "Oh, we're good, we got you," which I definitely appreciated. I think you can't help but respond to that kind of customer service. And to be honest, it's not something that is very common these days. And so I will shout out Marmot and call them my new brand crush. In addition, not instead of Disney.
I love
Disney.
That
if you're listening,
Disney, I'm available. No, I'm just joking.
Walt, if you're listening right now, he still loves you.
I feel like there is such an opportunity in brand interactions when something goes wrong, because people's expectations are always terrible. Like they think they're like, "Oh, this is going to be a fight. This is going to suck." You can blow people away with just a little bit of genuine making it right, like whatever that means in the context. And I think I talked about that, like having worked at the Keg
as a server,
like when something would go wrong, it was literally like in the business model, like things go wrong and like we're not gonna like have the friction with people over it. We're gonna make sure that when it goes wrong, it's handled perfectly. And it's just like, it's strangely like a huge marketing opportunity and branding opportunity to do that, but a lot of companies avoid it.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, and even so, in my new role, heading up the US CBD business, I get a chance to work with a lot of companies. So I call them directly, and so there's the big ones, the Vitamin Shops of the world and whatnot, but they're also really small ones, e-com players, local stores, and reaching out to them individually has been a huge kind of boost for me from an interaction perspective and kind of a brand love perspective. But just giving that level of service and interacting with them and hearing what they think about the business and how things are going has been huge. And even some folks, they only spend $1,000. I'll still message them. And I've set aside kind of time in my calendar just every week, parts of every day, and we just reach out to customers. And so trying to do that same, steal the Marmot model and trying to over deliver from a customer perspective, I think is the way I'd love to continue to grow this business. So yeah, small thing.
Interesting.
I'm gonna steal that idea. Set aside time. I do it a little bit, but we have a lot of smaller customers, and actually setting time aside is key, because otherwise it'll drop the priority list because you'll be busy doing something else. So I'm going to steal that idea and set some time aside every week.
Yeah, we have this huge sales push, or I have this huge sales push, and I set aside every day to do customer emails, and then time on Friday to do customer acquisition. So just finding folks to cold call, and stores. It's down to stores, because CBD store is just going to be one store in Nevada kind of thing. And so okay, well, I'm going to find out those folks and just call them and see what happens and message them. And it's all about lead generation, and I think I think it's good. I think it's the right way to build a brand, organically.
I like that.
Love it.
Cool.
Any wisdom you want to end with here? Anything special for our listeners or for us?
It's a good one. That's a good one. I think, I've been thinking a lot of these days, especially I think a year ago, the whole thing about quiet quitting was a whole thing.
God, I hate that.
And fundamentally that just burns me. It makes me sad, but I can understand how folks will be a little bit disillusioned with work, I think, and the role it plays in their life. And I mean, for me and for a lot of us, the work's been a huge part of my life, and work is probably unhealthily so when I was younger, if I can be completely honest, pushing those long days probably too much. And a lot of my mood and happiness and joy and satisfaction came from work, doing great things at work, what made me happy. And I think over the last little while, I've been trying to balance this relation of how do I continue to build a full, a well-rounded, fulfilling life, but also not lose my desire and drive at work, because ultimately, again, it still motivates me. And it's funny. I'm not going to name him because it's kind of a controversial comment, but I was at SCJ. I was probably 7 years out of my 10-year stint. And I went to the director of marketing at the time. I was like, I'm not motivated. I feel like the department's not motivating me. You as a manager are not motivating me. And he looked me dead in the face and he was like, that's not my job. It's your job to figure out what drives you every day and what's going to bring you into work, and what's going to fuel you. And I think, and that's been kind of the challenge that I've had through my whole life, and finding new ways to get yourself motivated and sticking through it, through the hard times, through the good times. I'm not one to just quit and leave, right? It's really easy these days. Everyone just stays for a job for a year and then bounces to the next one. Okay. The newness of a new job is fun and motivating, and then once it wears off, I'm like, okay, I'm gone. I think for me, it's like what's the game within the game? What is motivating you? Is it getting the next level? Is it building a sustainable business? Is it the company morals? And I think really focusing on that, especially when you're new in your career, just understanding what motivates you and how to motivate you in the good and the bad times, I think is key. Because I think in many times in my career, if I would have just left when bad times hit, then I would have lost out on meeting you guys probably, or all these great accomplishments afterwards, because things were tough for a while. And so I think in the theme of folks leaving and quitting and work not being as important, I think I'd like to start a counter movement of how do you stick with it, build something together, which it ultimately builds a more fulfilling experience for everyone.
I love it, man. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? Like if you are waiting for someone else to motivate you, you're really vulnerable, right? Like it's not easy to motivate yourself. It's not easy to always know what the mission is for yourself. And that's something everyone has to work on. But man, if you're waiting for someone else, you're putting a lot of trust in the world to give that to you. So that's a great lesson. I had never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and you'll know it. You'll get tested throughout any tenure at any company. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have bad stretches. You're going to have bad years. But what do you do to charge back up that hill? And that's the key. So yeah.
Love it. Well, guys, I think for our very informal, unscripted second guest, I think we'll call that a wrap on that great note. And big thank you to Mark for coming on and joining us and sharing, and also for just trusting us to be on this podcast in the first place, the first time. And
blind faith.
Yeah, looking forward to Mark being our first 3-time guest in a year. I think this is just now it's a tradition. So
annual Mark Lee combo. He gives us a pep talk and we feel better. Yeah, I like it. Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys.